Hello and welcome to Montgomery's Kitchen. I'm James Montgomery Anderson and this is the Venison Swiss steak. Here's some choice cuts out of the top round of the deer that I just harvested the other week. I've ran them through the tenderizer just once, so it makes this process a little easier, but we're going to heavily salt all our pieces front and back, and then we're going to hit them with some coarse ground pepper as well. Once you get everything seasoned both sides pretty well, it's time to get out the hammer and get to work. We're going to flatten these out best we can, and since we tenderized them once already, this is just going to make them so they're fall apart tender later. You're going to want to hammer out every piece and then flip them over and do them again. Once you get them all tenderized to your liking, we're going to get some all-purpose flour and put that in a little tray, and then we're going to press our Swiss steaks right into that flour. Be sure to get that flour to coat everything. Sprinkle a little bit extra if you can and try and get it into all the crevasses. Once you have all your Swiss steaks prepared, we're going to put a couple tablespoons of good Amish butter in a skillet, and we're going to just throw all our pieces in here. I have two different skillets because we're going to be making two different styles of Swiss steak. The one in the back is going to be an onion gravy style, and the one up front is going to be more a traditional style with tomato paste and sauce and quite a few extra things. But after 5 minutes, we're going to give these a flip, make sure that these are seared up pretty good. It doesn't take a whole lot. A medium-high heat in a cast iron pan really does a nice job. But we're going to flip all our Swiss steaks and let them go for another 5 minutes. 5 minutes is up, let's check it out. Oh yeah, getting a nice sear. So now we're going to set all these aside and get our pans ready to deglaze. The one in the back, we're going to throw a couple tablespoons of good butter and a chopped onion in there. The butter is going to help get some of the stuff that's stuck to the pan up and flavor those onions. We want to saute those till they're nice and translucent. Now in the one in front, we're going to be adding a red port wine to kind of deglaze the pan, get all our drippings up, and everything that's stuck to the pan is going to help flavor things later on. Don't be afraid to go a little heavy on the wine. Once the wine has kind of evaporated some and reduced to almost nothing, we're going to add half a stalk of chopped celery, a sliced onion, half a sliced onion, about 8 mushrooms, and 2 cloves of finely chopped garlic. We're going to stir this up and get everything to kind of saute a little bit and soak up some of that red wine. Once our onions have turned translucent and are nicely caramelized, we're going to add some of our all-purpose flour that we have left over, and we're going to make this into a real simple gravy. All we're going to do here is add a little bit of water. I think I use about a cup. Then later on I use about a half cup of beef broth that I have laying around. It really adds to the flavor. And after a few short minutes, our onion gravy is thickened up pretty well. We're going to put this on a low heat in the back and work with our vegetables for our traditional style. To this, we're going to add a pretty good scoop of tomato paste, and we're going to stir this around until everything blends up pretty well. Once everything is mixed up really well, we're going to add a few tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce and overdo it some, but that's okay. We're going to give this a good stir. You won't even notice it. Just like that, Worcestershire is blended in beautifully. Now it's time to add some beef broth. We're gonna put in about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of beef broth and kind of let this get to a bubble. Next up, we're gonna add some diced tomatoes as well. Any variety you choose is pretty good. Low salt's good because there is quite a bit of salt in this recipe, but get this all stirred up and looking universal, and we're almost there. Now that we got all our liquid ingredients, we're going to add a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of some fine ground mustard. Now we're going to give this a stir, let it reduce some, and we're all set to get in the oven. Next up, have an oven preheated to 350 degrees, and then we're gonna spread our Swiss steak cutlets out in baking dishes, and then we're gonna just cover it in our gravy and our tomato gravy. And these are gonna go in the oven for a little ride. Try and get as much gravy as you can. I made it enough for quite a few Swiss steaks, so this ought to work for some round steaks. You can have some pretty decent sized pieces there, and that should be plenty to cover it. Same with the tomato paste, pasta, gravy thing, call it whatever you want. But anyhow, these are gonna go on a ride in the oven for about an hour and a half. And after an hour and a half, we're ready to dish up. Just scoop a cutlet and get as much of that vegetable as you can. This turned out great. So, just like that, Swiss steak. I'm really excited to try this one. And the onion gravy, that's more like a traditional Swiss steak that like my dad would make or something, but did not turn out as well as he does. He knows the secrets. Something's going on. I'll have to figure that one out. However, it's gonna be good. I just got a feeling, because deer always tastes better, especially if you got it yourself. And absolutely, that is delicious. Might not look all that great, but man, it's got a lot of flavor to it. I did add a touch of the beef broth off camera, so that might have added to it and whatnot. And this stuff is like super tender. Now this one, I've never had Swiss steak with like tomato sauce, so looks very good though. We're gonna give this a shot. Oh yeah, that's like fall apart tender too. And it's got kind of a different flavor to it, but equally delicious, and I guarantee you're gonna like one of these. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm gonna be trying to crank out a few more episodes a week now that the big hunt is over. Thanks everybody for watching the archery episode, and this episode is actually a big shout out to Larry. Suggested these, and I'm glad that I tried them out. I'm sorry for the wait, but I really wanted to make them out of venison and do kind of like a double whammy episode, you know? But at any rate, thanks for watching, and see you next week. Have a good Bon appetit!